His name's Godspeed, and he's from the future.
Welcome back, everyone. It's Charlie. The Flash is back. This is going to be my Season 6, Episode 1 video. We have so many Easter eggs to talk about. It's Crisis on Infinite Earths. Every single episode this season, the first half, will deal with Crisis stuff. We're doing a weekly Flash Ring giveaway. All you have to do to enter is be a subscriber and leave your best theory about Crisis on Infinite Earths in the video. Careful for spoilers if you have not seen the episode yet. So here we go, top 10 WTF and Easter eggs. Number 10, the mystery opening glitch in the Time Vault. We found out at the end of the episode that the Monitor was responsible for this. He's like, yeah, I totally did it on purpose. But if you notice during the episode, there were several moments where they basically tried to clear a lot of what's going on in that previous future Nora timeline because the timeline was wiped, even though Nora's technology survived because it was designed to be impervious to timeline changes. That, coupled with the very first villain, which I'll talk about in a second because it was a very big villain twist, is all about them introducing the new version of the timeline that will play out in Easter eggs over the rest of the season. We might not learn everything about the new future timeline that Nora will come from and her potential twin brother from the comics, the Tornado Twins, until next season. But the showrunner said there would be a lot of Easter eggs for that, so we'll just pick them out episode by episode as we see them. Number 9, though, probably one of the biggest WTFs, the Godspeed army that's slowly been forming over the last 4 months. So they do that big time jump 4 months later after the end of last season. It was a great opening action scene. They remind you about a bunch of details from Godspeed last season, that he's a Velocity 9 speedster in the world of the Flash. They name drop August Hard, but the big surprise is that it's just another mechanical automaton, something that someone in the future is sending back into the past, and it's the 4th one in as many months. So they have 4 different versions of Godspeed locked up in Iron Heights. Just think about that. It's a small Godspeed army that's slowly forming. What's going to happen if all those versions of Godspeed escape at the same time? That seems like it's going to blow up in their face maybe later this season. But the whole idea is that there's a villain from the potential future with the technology to create artificial Godspeeds, so it has to be someone that's either really smart or from a very distant version of the future. There are only a couple of Flash villains we know that come from that far in the future, and Abracadabra is one of the few ones we haven't seen in a long time. Also, this probably has something to do with the villain from the second half of the season. Remember, even though they introduced the Bloodwork villain during this episode, he's only here for the first half of the season. There'll be a different villain in the back half, and everyone obviously is thinking might be Red Death, but he's just one of the other picks of potential villains from the future, because the last time we heard about Red Death on The Flash was when we were in that Nora episode in the future timeline at the Flash Museum, and they were mentioning him in passing as one of the greatest foes of the Flash. So just remember, big Godspeed mystery coming from the future, but it's not August Hart, it's just a bunch of artificial versions of Godspeed at this point. Number 8, catching up with Team Flash. This is where they set up the Sue Dibney arc for Ralph Dibney. He's been traveling all over the world because of the file he was looking at the end of last season. It's Sue Dibney from the comics. They're going to introduce her later this season. They've already confirmed it. They didn't say which episode it's going to happen, so it could be the first half of the season or the second half of the season, but obviously you know they get married. Her name is Sue Dearborn because that's her maiden name. Iris is still running the Central City Citizen. Things are going well with that. They catch up with Team Flash. Cisco is building a version of Cerebro using the Speed Force that will allow Barry to basically see potential timelines using the Speed Force the same way that Doctor Strange used the Time Stone during Avengers Infinity War. There were actually a lot of Marvel references and Easter eggs during this episode, but they're calling it the Mental Augmentation Chamber, and Barry sounds like he wants to use it like Minority Report, to catch crimes before they happen, because he's using potential alternate futures to find criminals before they actually commit the act. Spoiler warning for Minority Report, that never goes well. So no matter what's going to happen with this device, things are going to go completely off the rails. Number 6, meet the new Bloodwork villain, Ramsey Rosa. That's his name in the comics. They change a couple things about his backstory. They say he's one of Caitlin's friends from medical school, and his mother, who died, who the funeral was for at the beginning of the episode, is the person who got Caitlin the job at Star Labs in the first place. That's just them giving him a lot of history and ties to her character, but you learn that he just wants dark matter because he's created a cure for cancer that requires it, and it might maybe turn people into metahumans, which it then totally does at the end of the episode. If you're not familiar with the Bloodwork villain, he actually appeared during the Negative Flash arc. We actually got a look on set of a future episode, I think it's episode 7 or episode 8, where we see what looks like Barry turning into a Negative Flash, so we might actually get some of that this season. Number 5, there are a whole bunch of Marvel Easter eggs when they're at the junkyard. Well, first Iris calls Cisco Ghostbusters because of the device he's using to scan for dark matter. Cisco talks about gamma rays, magnetard fields, gamma rays obviously talking about the Hulk. There was also a Killer Frost, Caitlin Hulk-style storyline in a bit of a riff on their storyline during Avengers Infinity War, with the Hulk kind of fighting Banner within his mind for control of the body.
Dude, you're embarrassing me in front of the wizards.
I'm sorry, either I can't or he will.
We get the quick reminder that Joe West is the new police chief. Captain Singh, I guess, has gone on to greener pastures, but maybe he'll still appear on the show every once in a while. But number 4, we meet Chester P. Runk from the comics. He is a Flash comic book villain. His ability was opening wormholes to other realities, but when they show him on screen, there are a whole bunch of meta Easter eggs for Star Wars and even more Marvel Easter eggs. If you look at some of the chat names, I'm probably missing a couple of them here, but there's Wookiee Lover 77 for Star Wars, released in 1977. Pizza Parker is a reference to Tobey Maguire's version of Spider-Man from Spider-Man 2.
Pizza time.
But they find that Chester P. Runk has been connected to the black holes somehow. He's been given this ability that allows him to create black holes. We kind of learn it's a little more complicated than that during the final big action scene, because Barry literally flies through a black hole and it takes him to another part of space. But that's basically what his comic book powers are, and even though at the end of the episode they're able to reconnect his consciousness to his body, his eyes are glowing all yellow, that just means that he'll probably be able to continue opening portals across the multiverse later in the season. When Cisco is talking about solutions and creates that stellar grenade, there's a really deep-cut Mission Impossible Emilio Estevez reference when he says, "Hasta lasagna, don't get any on ya." Elongated Man gives us a nice Superman reference. There's going to be so many versions of Superman coming during Crisis on Infinite Earths. Snowtriss of Solitude. The whole Killer Frost thing is basically her just being pissed off that Caitlin only uses her for fighting. Then they work it out, and she agrees to let Killer Frost be the dominant personality this season. So it just means way more Killer Frost in episodes than Caitlin, as you've seen before. Normally it's just a little bit of Killer Frost and mostly Caitlin. Now it's going to be the other way around for Season 6. Just like the Flash's new costume is way better than last year's costume, her costume is also way better than the previous versions of her costumes. But number 3, the big Flash Gordon scene. I was so surprised and laughing so hard. I was so happy with the way they used this. Cisco says, "I've been saving this one for a long time." They play the theme song from Flash Gordon as Barry flies into the wormhole or the black hole, just like Flash Gordon did in his movie. The brand new ability that he's using, we've never actually seen him do before, is creating a bubble of Speed Force protection around himself. Cisco refers to it as a Speed Force aura to protect himself from the gravimetric forces, but he carries the consciousness of Chester P. Runk, puts it back in his body inside their special Cerebro device, then basically say that he's going to have to bake in there for 3 to 4 weeks, which is code for 3 to 4 episodes. That's just them saying that they probably won't be able to use that special device for anything good for a couple more weeks. But number 2, Bloodwork gets his comic book powers, so he naturally uses the dark matter from the gun that he acquired in the black market to test his cure for cancer on himself. It totally works, but then, as Caitlin foretold, it could turn people into metahumans. It straight up turns him into comic book Bloodwork. The way they visualize his powers is similar to the way his powers work in the comics, but they tune down the bright red and now it's a little more real world. If you didn't read that Flash Rebirth arc, he just has the ability to control blood. He can create constructs, he can control the blood in other people, including the Flash. So he can actually partially control the Flash by controlling his blood. That might have something to do with the negative Flash stuff that we've seen from them on set. But while Barry was on the other side of space through that black hole, he grabbed Nora's jacket, which had been sucked in, and they put it in the place where they used to keep Reverse Flash's costume inside the Time Vault. Reverse Flash is a big part of Crisis on Infinite Earths, just like he said last season. He will be back. I'll see you at the next crisis.
See you at our next crisis.
Then big number 1 WTF, the end credit scene, Crisis on Infinite Earths. The Monitor rolls in and explains why he destroyed Nora's device, because I don't want you to have hope. Because in order for billions to survive, the Flash must die. So it's basically him giving him a comic book spoiler for Crisis on Infinite Earths. And no surprise, episode 2 next week is called A Flash of the Lightning. That's the name of the issue where Flash died during Crisis on Infinite Earths. So that's why next week Barry is going to travel to the future to try and get a glimpse and see what really happens. And then he goes to Jay Garrick for help. So next week, big Jay Garrick episode. but he did put an actual date on the Flash's death. Now, I think we all believe that Oliver Queen is going to sacrifice himself. That's the whole point of this, is that he's going to do something different so that Barry does not disappear during Crisis. But the actual day is December 10th, 2019. That's just going to be the day of the Flash episode of the crossover. See how they did that? This is the full schedule for all the episodes of the crossover. First 3 airing in December, then they go on break, then come back in January, you get the second part of the crossover, then whatever explosive conclusion. So they really are going to kill off Oliver Queen. That might not wind up happening till the January episodes. But everybody post your favorite moments from the episode in the comments if you have any big questions or there are any Easter eggs you spotted that I didn't mention in the video. I feel like it was a great first episode, way better than Season 5, way better than Season 4. There is a brand new showrunner who's actually working on the show, so he did a great job of setting a whole bunch of stuff up for future episodes and for the back half of the season. Like I said, I think the Godspeed stuff might be connected to the back half of the season. What'll happen is I'll do a trailer video for episode 2 and post that tomorrow. I'll name a giveaway winner when I do that. While you wait for everything, click here for all my Flash, Crisis on Infinite Earths trailer videos and learn about what's going on with all the Supermen. And click here for all my Joker movie videos, Easter eggs, the ending scene, and my review video. Thank you so much for watching. Everybody